Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Sweden, and we're also going to stick to my home county of Skåne here in the very south of the country. We're going to return to a brewery that has featured on the channel a good number of times before. I've had some really nice beers from these guys over the years, quite a few different styles actually, but the beer that we're going to have a look at today, if memory serves me correctly, is a style that I haven't had from them so far. It seems to be very highly rated, so hopefully it's going to be another interesting one. But these guys are a brewery that I've been keeping an eye on because they're doing some really good stuff at the moment. So hopefully this is another interesting beer, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on it as well. So yeah, for this review then, we are going to go a little bit south of me here in Lund to Malmö, and we're having a look at another beer from Hyllie Bryggeri. So this particular beer is called Obstructed Visibility. It comes in at 7% ABV, and this one is a New England hazy, whatever you want to call it, IPA. So yeah, like I said, if memory serves me correctly, this is the first New England IPA that I'm having from these guys. We had the Serendipity last month, but I think that was kind of more of a hybrid IPA rather than a specific New England one, if you like. They're calling this one specifically a hazy IPA. But this beer was released as part of the local Småskalig assortment through Systembolaget here in Sweden for May of 2021. I think the exact release date this month was in fact the 1st of May, which is normal. But yeah, like I said, really curious to see how it turns out. My first hazy IPA, or my first New England IPA, I guess we could say, from Hyllie Bryggeri. So yeah, let's crack on with this one and see how we get on. So as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Hyllie Bryggeri before, and you will no doubt see more added to that list in the near future because I do keep an eye out for what these guys are releasing. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you happen to be interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Hyllie Bryggeri once again then, on to my brewery notes. So Hyllie Bryggeri started off as the homebrewing experimentations of Michael Nathorst, who is from Vintria, a few minutes to the south of Hyllie, which itself is just in the southern part of Malmö. But for a number of years he was a home brewer, and he built up his own brewery in his garage where he experimented with lots of different kinds of beers with his friends, and he started home brewing in around 2013. But he's worked for a number of years in the plumbing industry as well, and for a period of time he was working for 4 days as a plumber and then 1 day with the brewery. But he's good friends with Torsten Ekne, who is the original owner of Beer Ditch in Malmö, which I do recommend that you check out. But when Beer Ditch began, Michael decided that he was going to turn his garage hobby brewery into a fully fledged and commercially registered brewery. So Hyllie Bryggeri was officially registered as a company in 2015. But these days, Michael is joined at the brewery by Erik Fritihov, who is a partner in the company, and he deals with the sales and marketing side of things. But he's also one of the founders of the Great Swedish Beer Festival, so a pretty good guy to have on your team actually. But in 2019, the brewery joined forces with Psychopipes and Limhamns Bryggeri to form a new company that owns a brewery building, and it was there that the three companies were brewing their beer. They had a 1,000 litre brew kit, and this arrangement unfortunately only lasted for a few months before Hyllie moved out to a farm on Vintria, because they said that this arrangement just really wasn't working out for them. But throughout 2020, they were contract brewing a number of their beers to kind of meet the volume that they wanted to have, but they invested in a new premises in Malmö as well, which was an old car garage, and this has been converted into a 2,000 litre brewery, and it seems to be going pretty well for them. They've recently opened up a tap room in there as well, which is called Stormgatan, and at the moment it's opening from Thursday to Sunday, so hopefully I can go and visit that at some point soon. But they also recruited Johan Lagerkrantz as their head brewer just around the time that they were investing in this new place as well. But he spent 5 years in New Zealand, and I'm guessing I've had quite a few of the beers that he's brewed already, and he seems to be doing a pretty awesome job. But as of May 2021, these guys have produced around 80 different kinds of beer according to Untappd. And you know, these guys, as I say, they're very capable in lots of different styles. I mean, I've had a good number of lager beers from them. These guys are probably one of the best lager breweries in Sweden. You know, the Skånsk lager is one of my favourite Swedish brewed lagers, and one of my favourite lagers generally speaking, I would say. That's just an awesome beer, in fact. But yeah, they do some really good IPAs as well. The Hyllie is their kind of classic flagship West Coast IPA. That one's a proper old school beer brewed with like Citra Simcoe and USO5 yeast. It's pretty damn good, actually. So yeah, those are the two beers that I would really recommend that you check out from these guys. And they've also got various things that come out every month. They're quite an experimental brewery, these guys, so definitely check them out. So yeah, that's all I can really tell you about Hyllie Bryggeri for the moment. Definitely, this brewery are on one hand they are quite established because a lot of people know about them, but they are still in a kind of growth phase. So they're established, but they are still kind of up and coming, I guess we'd say. But check out Hyllie Bryggeri if you get the chance. And as I said, hopefully we can get these guys on the channel at some point and do a Meet the Brewery segment with them. Hyllie Bryggeri are one of the ones that I really want to do this with, in fact. But yeah, let's crack on then and have a taste of this beer. I'm really curious to see what this has in store for us. So yeah, I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork on this one before we open it up. As you can see, very, very nicely presented. I think this one goes together very, very well. But yeah, it's pretty cool. But yeah, plain sort of gold top on the can. Well, I say plain, nice gold top. I'm used to talking about bottles. Yeah, nice gold top on the can there, a white can underneath, and you can see, I don't know how well you're going to see that, but you can see the Hyllie water tower on this one. If you go past Hyllie on the train on the way to Copenhagen, you'll see that water tower, the famous landmark. But yeah, as I told you earlier, 7% New England Hazy IPA, this one. My first New England IPA as far as memory goes from this brewery. But for this beer, I think I paid 45 Swedish kroner. So that is roughly €4.50, £4 sterling, maybe about $5, $5.25 American, just for those of you watching in different parts of the world. But yeah, let's get this guy out then and we'll get on with the tasting. Very curious to see what this beer has in store for us. Let's get it out and into the glass. It's kind of interesting actually that these guys have taken so long to release a specifically hazy IPA. So yeah, it smells beautiful as well as soon as you open this up. I think that's about enough. We've got about, yeah, 3/4 of it out into the glass just now, which will be enough to take a look at. So yeah, that looks pretty damn good actually. So you can see this beer is poured with a pretty impressive head. That's a solid finger and a bit, maybe a finger and a third of a frothy. I would say that's a slightly cream coloured head. It's not perfect white, but yeah, there's a few bumpy bits up towards the surface, but underneath it is very, very nice and frothy. But yeah, for a New England IPA, it certainly looks the part, this beer. So as you can see, if I shine the light through this one, I would say it's a little bit darker to the naked eye than it's appearing on the camera. To you guys it's appearing like quite a bright yellow, but to me this one's a kind of darker yellow in fact. But there's one or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of the head there, but overall it does look pretty damn nice. But yeah, kind of darker yellow colour this one. It reminds me like of a kind of mango and passion fruit juice or something like this. I always like comparing the New England IPAs to different fruit juices because that's really just what their appearance reminds me of. But yeah, mango and passion fruit juice or something like this. Not a pure mango juice, it would be a little bit brighter than that, I think, if it was around that colour. But remember, the colour of your beer is determined by 1, the type of malts that you use, and then 2, the length of your wort boil. Adjuncts and barrel aging of course can play a role, but not in this beer, that's not in play here. But the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. But yeah, the level of haze in this beer as well, for a 7%er, it's actually alright. It's kind of right in the middle. It's pushing towards the higher end, I think, though it's not the soupiest and gloopiest of New England IPAs that I've come across, but it certainly does have a decent level of haze to it for a 7%er. But yeah, I do like how all of that, I do like how all of this pieces together on this one. So in terms of a New England IPA, nothing particularly surprising about the appearance of this beer. I think it works. It works rather nicely. So yeah, looks good. So let's have a little look at the aroma then and see how we get on. Nothing surprising about the appearance of this beer when you consider what style it is. But yeah, aroma wise, this one is very, very nice. There's something familiar about the hops in this beer as well, but you know, playing guess the hops with these beers is getting increasingly difficult because there's so many different hops out there these days. But I'm going to say straight away, the aroma of this one is really damn nice actually. So I'm curious to see, because Hyllie Bryggeri, as I say, I rate this brewery very, very highly, and I'm curious to see whether their IPAs are up there with, you know, the Apexes and the Fermentararnas and Duck Ponds and things like that these days. The Stigbergs and OOs, of course, are still very good, but you know, for me, yeah, Apex, Duck Pond, and things like this. These guys are doing some awesome IPAs at the moment. Fermentararna as well. I've got lovely, light, drinkable New England IPAs, but this one smells absolutely lovely. The malt base in this is really well balanced, but you always get that. That's one of the things that I really like about Hyllie, is they seem to appreciate the importance of the malt base for me. But yeah, so straight away with this beer, you can smell that lovely, smooth, white bready note to this one. As I've told you before, for me, New England IPAs can go in about 6 different directions. They can be sort of farmhousey and yeasty, they can be sort of rye and grainy leaning, they can be they can be sort of wheaty and bitey, oaty and creamy, barley malt leaning and kind of more bready, and you can also get some of them having a little bit more brown sugar and things in them. But yeah, this one actually comes across as really nicely balanced. So for me, there's a lot of big white breadiness in this one. There's a good little bit of an oaty, smoothness in this beer. But the oats thicken it up a little bit, but I don't think they're playing a massive role actually. I don't think they're playing too much of a role. I'm just wondering, I'll just check what does it actually have. Yeah, it has got the three. It has got wheat. It has got barley malt, wheat malt, and oats in it. I was a bit concerned. I'm talking about oats in this, and I've had this before where I've said, there's oats in the beer, and it smells like there's oats in the beer, and then there hasn't been. But yeah, happens sometimes. But yeah, you can. What I'm getting on that nice smoothness in the middle of the beer, it is definitely oats, because that's one of the things, especially with this brewery, when these guys are so good with on the malty side of things. I wouldn't have been surprised if they could do something like that gives you the impression of the oaty smoothness. But yeah, this beer, it's got a soft, white bready backbone to it, a lovely bit of an oaty smoothness. You can almost smell a little bit of a slightly sweeter character from the oats as well, and there's just a little touch of a wheaty bitiness at the back of the nose. In terms of sweetness in the malt base, like I say, the oats give you a little bit, but you do get a little hint of that Werther's Original kind of slightly brown sugary sort of thing. So yeah, I do like how that side of things goes together. In fact, it's got just a nice little bit of a kind of Werther's Original type quality to it. So yeah, the malty side of this beer, I think, goes together pretty damn nicely actually. So thumbs up to Hyllie Bryggeri for this one. And this beer is actually really nicely balanced between the malty and the hoppy side of things, and again, that's something that I really enjoy about Hyllie Bryggeri. But let's focus on the hoppy side of things with the beer then. Yeah, so for me, the hoppy side of things, there's a little touch of earthiness. If we talk about the green component, there's a teeny little bit of earthiness in there, but that's quite minimal. But the green component for me, it's mainly floral. It's a mainly big, bright floral note you get out of this one. It's not spicy, there's not like Columbus kind of spice and things like that in it, but it's just very bright and almost airy in a sense. So I really like that. There is a wee bit of grassiness to the beer as well, and the grassiness almost has an element of smoothness. It's just the green component in this beer comes across as being very, very fresh actually, and I think I'm drinking this beer kind of in the middle of the month actually. It was released at the start of the month, so I think this beer could well be sort of getting into its prime at the moment. I always feel with the New England IPAs, it's best just to let them sit a little bit. If you let them sit a little bit, you always get them in quite in quite good condition, and I think this one is probably sitting in its prime at the moment, because the green component just feels so fresh, lovely bright floral aromaticity, and a bit of that kind of lighter grassiness in there as well. Again, it's just really well balanced. Everything in this beer, it's one of these ones where everything just fits together. But on the fruity side of things, how would we say? Yeah, on the fruity side of things, this beer, it's very well balanced. You've got a nice little bit of how would we say? You've got a nice little bit of kind of smooth tropical note in there. You do get a bit of a juicy mango, but you've got soft apricots, a little bit of kind of papaya and things like that in there. And again, it's just really well balanced on that side of things. For me, there is a bit of a more oily orangey character to this one. Like I say, there's just something familiar about this beer. Could there be a wee bit of Sabro or something in this? There's just something about the orangey character. It's almost just a little teeny bit coconutty, and I'm like, Sabro maybe. So yeah. But the aroma in this is lovely. So you've got a lovely juicy orange, but it's got a bit of that kind of lighter tangerine sort of vibe about it. So yeah, I always used to love playing Guess the Hops with these beers, but like I say, it's increasingly difficult now with all the different hops that are out there. But that's a lovely smelling beer. It's got a good balance between, you know, a more oily orangey citrus and then the softer kind of tropical fruits in there too. So yeah, a bit of mango, a bit of like a lighter apricot-y, papaya type thing for me, and then a kind of juicy, slightly oily but still quite light sort of tangerine element to this one. So yeah, it's really interesting how this beer goes about it. Could this be, you know, could it be a little bit of Idaho 7 that's in here, the soft tropical fruits, but still a bit of a juicy mango, maybe a bit of Idaho 7 and Sabro, I don't know. Yeah, but yeah, good balance between the tropical side of things. This is one of these beers where the aroma is really nice on this. As I always say, take a bit of time to ponder over the aroma of the beer, but I think it's about time that we have a taste of this one. So yeah, this one is the Obstructed Visibility, a 7% hazy New England, whatever you want to call it, IPA from Hyllie Bryggeri in Malmö here in Skåne in the south of Sweden. Let's get stuck into this one. Slange, skål, cheers. Oh yeah, I'm going to say straight away, that's a lovely, lovely New England IPA. First impression of it is that it's very, very smooth. It's one of these ones that's got a lovely kind of bready sort of smoothness to it. So again, I wouldn't be surprised if this is a German malt base that's in this, because I know these guys do love a German malt base. So yeah, I do like how this goes together. But yeah, first impression, it's a very smooth and very kind of soft New England IPA. It's a little bit more bread, if you know, probably the closest ones that I've had that I could compare this to would be the ones from Fermentararna. It's kind of like that, but it feels a little bit more, the breadiness feels a little bit more fluffy. I think that's a good way to describe it. So if you like the Fermentararna IPAs, this one is actually kind of close to what they've got, but just a little bit fluffier in its bready character. But yeah, well done to Hyllie for this. It's still got that drinkability to it as well. Like, you know, Hyllie, they're, as I say, a ridiculously good lager brewery. They really know what they're doing in that sense. So I'm not surprised that in the IPAs they still always have that drinkability element to them. So yeah, but let's try and break this beer down for you then a little bit more. Straight away across the middle of your palate, this beer's got a lovely kind of smooth white bready element to it. You can feel that. You can feel that right away. You know, that the middle of your palate is just blanketed with this soft white bready character. You can feel a little bit of the pale malt kind of sitting underneath it, and you've just got almost a little touch of crispness from the pale malt. But then on top of that, you get the lovely sort of fluffy white bread. It's not overly thick, but it just feels kind of light and airy in a sense, which I really like. Pardon me. But sitting on top of that, if you go kind of down the middle line of your tongue, you can feel the oats coming out of the beer. It's got a lovely smooth kind of oaty character to it, and the oats again are not too thick. You can feel they add just a little bit of smoothness and sweetness in the middle line of your palate, but overall it does go together just like really nicely also. But yeah, it gets a big thumbs up from me, this one, absolutely. So yeah, the malty base in this is just really nicely executed. I mean, in the very middle of your palate, you get a little touch of like a Werther's Original kind of butter candy type thing there, and that's that's the alcohol that's giving you that. It's like a little circle in the dead centre of your palate. But yeah, malt base, it's like a kind of pale malty, slightly crisper sort of thing. The airy white bread, then a sort of layer of oats down the middle line of your tongue, and a wee touch of a kind of Werther's Original type quality coming out of the beer. So yeah, I really like how this beer goes about its business. Absolutely. So yeah, big thumbs up to Hyllie once again for the malt baseness. But I'm not surprised. These guys, very capable brewery, as I said. So that's your middle third of your palate. On the border region then, between middle third and back third of your palate, you can feel there's a little bit of a slightly thicker, more doughier bread element to it, and a wee touch of a bread crusty thing. But then on the back third of your palate, you've got a nice kind of smooth. You can feel there's a nice little bit of a lighter. You get sort of the pale malt again, and you get a wee bit of the. Oh, it could actually. Potentially, I'm thinking about this now, because you get a little bit of bitiness at the very back of the palate. That sort of pale malty light base I'm getting, that might well be the wheat, because it comes across as a very smooth wheat rather than being kind of bitey in a sense. There's a little bit of bitiness, as I say, at the very back tip of the tongue, but otherwise it is very smooth. So maybe that pale malty layer I was talking about, that could well just be the wheat. Interesting. But yeah, as I say, back third of your palate, you get a little bit of the pale malt and a bit of the wheat, a little bit bitey at the back, but sitting on top of that middle third of your palate, you get a kind of lighter and more airy, you get a lighter and sort of more airy yeasty character coming out of it. So yeah, sitting on top of that, as I say, you get that nice kind of airy yeasty thing, but as you move further forward, you can feel the back of the beer, the thickness is like this, but as you move further forward, it just condenses down a wee bit, and as you move into the middle third of your palate, it is the flavours are just a little bit more kind of squashed together. But this is a very, very smooth New England IPA, and for me, it really leans more towards the barley malt side of things. But I guess that could be a skewed view, because the wheat strikes me as being very smooth in this one. I think it's mainly a wheaty and bready IPA, this one. But yeah, I like that for sure. But on the hoppy side of things then, the green component, as it kind of was in the aroma, is quite smooth. You've got a little touch of earthiness in there on the back corners of the palate, but as you move further forward, maybe a tiny little bit of a herbal quality, and as you move along the kind of front, towards the front kind of corners of the palate, it's got a little bit of a more kind of floral, aromatic-y side of things to it. It's got a little, maybe a wee tiny bite to it, if you like, on the front corners of the palate, but otherwise it's quite smooth. Round the front curve of the tongue though, it's got a little bit of a lighter, grassy element to it, which I really like. But yeah, round the front curve of the palate, as I say, you've got a nice light grassiness in there, a wee touch of zestiness to it, and overall, that green component, it's a wee bit kind of brighter and has a wee touch of bite to it compared to what the aroma would have you believe. But again, it just works. It works very well. But let's focus on that front third of your palate then, and the fruity characters. So border region between front third and middle third of your palate. Again, you get a little bit of a kind of doughy, bready build up in there, a wee bit of a bread crust. Then the base of that front third of your palate, you have a nice kind of smooth. There's a smooth kind of wheaty character in there, which I really like. But yeah, as you move towards the kind of back of that, as you move towards the back of the front third of your tongue, there's a wee bit of a more kind of, you do get a tiny little element of a passion fruity note to it, but not a lot. But as you move further forward, it's got a wee bit of a kind of mango-y element, which is kind of typical these days. But yeah, for me, there's quite a bit of a kind of apricot-y, kind of papaya type base to this one. I really wonder if there's a bit of Idaho 7 in this. I do wonder. Yeah, there's something about just the softness of the tropical fruit in this, and the apricot, and the the apricot, the papayas, and maybe even just a wee touch of pineapple that you're getting out of this. That does make me wonder about Idaho 7. But as you move on to the front half, the front third of your tongue, it's interesting because the orangey notes that I was picking up in the aroma don't seem quite as prominent as they did in the in the flavour. They don't seem quite as prominent as they did in the aroma. So, yeah, and I'm not, and in fairness, I still get a wee touch of an almost coconutty thing underneath it. There's just a wee bit of a sweet coconutty bit in that front half of the front third of your tongue, and then a sort of light orange sitting on top of it. So I do wonder, could this be Sabro and Idaho 7 that's in this? Could it be? There are other hops, of course, that it could be the tropical side of things. You've got various different ones these days: El Dorado, Simcoe, Citra, and things. I don't think Citra's in this because it doesn't strike me as being, it's not got enough of a lemony and passion fruity component and stuff like that to be Citra. But yeah, it's a very soft beer, this one, and Sabro and Idaho 7 would suit this one. But then again, the New England IPAs rely on late edition hopping because that's when you get the most flavour and aroma. Early edition hops give you your bitterness. But yeah, I would be curious to know what hops were in this one, in fact. But yeah, I think that's a good place to kind of round off this review. A wee bit of coconut sitting in it underneath it, a wee bit of kind of tangerine-y, orangey sort of thing on the front half of that front third of your tongue, but just a lovely, very soft and drinkable New England IPA, this one. Like I say, this beer, it is probably the closest things I've had to this one would be the Fermentorarnas. I would compare this to the Fermentorarna IPAs. It's a little bit soft, it's a little bit more kind of fluffy in its breadiness, and in the aftertaste it does develop a little bit more of a kind of, it does get a little bit more wheaty and bitey into the aftertaste. But yeah, it is in vibe, it's quite similar to the Fermentorarna ones, and there's nothing wrong with that. They do some awesome stuff. But yeah, to round off the review with the mouthfeel then, overall I would say that this is it's pretty mid-bodied, this beer. As with Hyllie, you always get an element of drinkability to their stuff, and this one definitely has that. It feels quite smooth and drinkable in a sense. Yeah, just smooth, drinkable beer overall. The carbonation is very, very smooth. It's got a little bit of that almost kind of Brauhaus tap kind of vibe to it. It's almost got a similar mouthfeel to like a Munich Helles in a lot of ways. Obviously it's a bit more hoppy and things, but yeah, in terms of the hoppy bitterness, I think this is a fairly standard 25 or 30 IBU beer. It's pretty standard New England. 25 IBUs probably, maybe 20, because it does feel so soft. But yeah, malt base in this one, like I say, is really kind of smooth and everything like that. It's got a little tiny bit of sweetness to it, but mainly a smooth malt base and a lovely kind of juicy fruity quality to it. This one, the fruits are very smooth and just wet and juicy. So yeah, I really like how this beer goes about its business. Actually, it works very well. So big thumbs up to Hyllie Bryggeri for this one. I look forward to seeing more New England IPAs from them over the next little while. I'll be curious to see them do a few more kind of West Coasters and things, because I think the last one, the Serendipity that we had, was a little bit more of a kind of hybrid from what I remember, like a bit West Coasty and a bit New Englandy. But yeah, I think we can round off the review there then. So once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Hyllie Bryggeri. Do check these guys out, particularly the Skåne Lager and the Hyllie Pan. Those are two of the best beers that you'll find from these guys, but this one is pretty damn good as well. Actually, I wouldn't be surprised if they made this a kind of core range New England IPA, but that of course will depend on the hops that they use. You know, if you're going to do a core range IPA, you've got to make sure you've got a year-round supply of hops to do that, so you don't have to change the recipe all the time. But yeah, big thumbs up to Hyllie once again. I always enjoy reviewing their beers, and hopefully we can do a Meet the Brewery sim with them soon. So yeah, check out my social media, check out these guys, let me know your own thoughts on the beer in the comment section below, and hopefully I can go and visit Stormgatan at some point soon. Slange, skull, cheers, and see you in the next one. The Obstructed Visibility from Hyllie Bryggeri, 7% New England Hazy IPA in Malmö, here in Skåne in the south of Sweden. Slange just now.